Oi, oi. So I'm going to be going through some bets I'm having this weekend. I'm going to give a little bit of a run through on some of the races that I've not had an interest in, but thoughts on them anyway. I'll skim through as quickly as I can. I'm going to go Friday, then Saturday, just chronological for a few bets. As I say, I'll be away for this weekend, so I wanted to get it out now. Newbury, Friday, National Hunt Maiden Hurdle to kick us off with. Obviously, we've got Jet Power, the big money talking horse, 350,000. If we look at the point-to-point ratings of him and ITAC Blue for Dan Skelton, 94 for ITAC Blue and 93 it was for Jet Powered. Now, you can start to look back in the form for these point-to-points to see if you can get some depth in there to find out what's going on with them and to see if you can work out the level it's at. It's tricky with both of these because I don't really think there's a lot to shout about in behind. I'm sure someone will try and pull me up on that. Fair enough. When we talk about the price differences, that was commented on the video that I did for the weekend preview. Jet Powered has been nibbled in. ITAC Blue is like a 5-2 poke. Given the prices that they are for the Supreme, I think one's maybe 16s, one's 40s, you'd expect that weight to be closer to what it is now, which is 10 to 11 and 5-2. So in and around where they are, that's not how the betting necessarily has to work, but I talked about it with the John Bon Montmirail thing. I'm really excited to watch them run. Obviously, key to remember that the Nicky Henderson horses that have run in here haven't actually won a Supreme. They've been good horses after, like your Bouverdaires and your John Bons and stuff, but one to get excited about nonetheless. An exciting race to look at it. Give a go for Gary Moore ran today, won today, just won literally. So there's no real depth in behind. So you'd expect them to to really be battling it out. I was trying to see if I could find something at a price that could be interesting, but I couldn't. So enough in there. There's a novices handicap chase after this. I don't really want to get too interested in that. There's a novices hurdle in the 120, which I do want to get interested in. Now, the reason I really iterated about the point-to-point form is Stay Away Faye for Paul Nicholls, who's won this race with Stage Star Brave Man's Game in recent years. Got a rate of 94 in his point-to-point, was a big money purchase. Now, this is a horse that hasn't really shown a lot at home, Paul Nicholls has said in his Betfair blog. I actually had been told that by someone else at home. So that's a consideration. Has had a wind up as well, so we need to see what's going on with that. Obviously, if it's having to have something touched so early, then that's an interesting one. But I will say something, right? This way out for Sid Hosey that was, I think, third in the point behind Stay Away Faye. I quite like this one. I gave it a little bit of a mention for that Ascot bumper and came second at 20-1. Like, ran pretty well. Now, I know Monty's Star that was in second that went to Maloney's didn't really run that well since, and it was eased in that point-to-point. But if you go back, the form is Mighty, which is fourth, came out and won a point-to-point after. I think Stay Away Faye's got pretty solid point-to-point form. Based on that, I do think that the 5-2 or 9-4 currently that it is, 9-4, I think that's pretty decent, to be honest with you. I think its half-sister is Queen's Highway that was with Alex Hales. That's run this summer, and that's run on good ground, won twice, come second once. So, I really think this Stay Away Phase should be a lot shorter. Obviously, with these point-to-point ones, I've talked about these before. It's, you know, you can't really want to get like too far stuck in. If you look at the horses that are in behind, I know this Russian Ruler for Nicky Henderson has had a wind up now, and it was tried in the Dovecote, so highly tried, second season novice, all those bits and pieces, but didn't really do anything in any race before to suggest that it's going to be a worldie, so wouldn't be sold on that one being a real challenge. And then this He's a Geezer as well. Look, the entry race ran okay, to be honest with you, and probably will come on for the run, but I don't know, to be honest with you. It can be quite a nice little maiden that, but I don't think it's that deep. And really, behind that, there's nothing else that really excites me. So Stay Away Faye, yes, it's a bit punty, tongue-tie first time up and a wind up, but point form looks rock solid to me. I can't believe it's the price that it is. I would make this much closer to like a 6-4-ish shot. I think that's not even a bad price to go in at. 9-4 currently available. I have backed Stay Away Face. That's my first 50 quid that's gone in on that. Now, I talked about Stage Star in that novices chase. He has shortened up a bit now. Was around about evens. It's gonna come on bundles to run, look pretty good. Beauport is like a genuine rival. Wonderball was 25-1 when they priced it up, and that has been nibbled in, and I can see why. Like, it's got a lot to do to go and win this, but Campron's not a chaser. Sebastopol we know is very in and out, and again Beauport like probably is got a good chance. May just be an absolute plodder further down the line, and probably would want more of a test in terms of ground and possibly distance. So I think Wonderwall probably could maybe come second to Stage Star, but won't be having an interest in that race. Beakstown, I'm definitely having a few quid on Beakstown. The old Roan form obviously looks solid with Hitman and Garlaw going and doing what they're doing. I still think that he is got a chance. Like I nibbled him then at Aintree. Doesn't really see out his races very well, does he? But I think the form's there for all to see. And I think he's got a chance here, carrying a featherweight. We'll just have to see how he goes. But 100 to 30, I've had 50 on him as well. Fancy that a bit. Then we've got the Coral Long Distance Hurdle. I've already talked about this race, and I've talked about Prashima being the horse that I think is being undervalued. Again, with the way the ground is, I think it's going to massively favour him. Dan Skelton suggested that the Long Walk at Ascot and then the Cleve Hurdle are like a million and a zillion to one for him to run in because of the ground. He's going to try and wind him away from that and then bring it back from the spring. I think he needs a run to get himself back into it. So let's see what happens there. But for now, Champ's going to be nibbled, and Champ already has from 5 to 2 to 15 to 8. I can see the support continuing for him. He is an ageing horse. I've put it all in that GG write-up about the actual depth of long distance hurdle. I like Prashima for the potential wild card for the stayers, and I have backed him in this. So I've had 50 on Prashima, 11 to 4 we managed to get for that. Well, I say we've got 11 to 4. I haven't actually struck the bet yet. This is being recorded at 1:30. I've had a bit of an issue with a loss liability on Betfair Arbin for a friend, but he can get the money on for me. We've discussed the price of the other ones, and I'm happy enough to take them. Like, I think Beakstown was short on 130. Can't see him get too much bigger. But ones like this, I do think the Prashima is going to drift out at least 3 to 1. So we're leaving that for a little bit. So I haven't got it on yet, but there is 50 quid going on him. Already talked about the handicap hurdle again in that video. Scandiberg, genuinely. Gavin Sheehan's back on board. Ride it for when it was owned by the Brooks. Cheek Pieces and Tongue Tie. When it had Cheek Pieces on for the first time last time. Oh, sorry, Tongue Tie. Yeah, first time last time. It didn't do anything. It was poor at Cheltenham. It was woeful, but that was saved for a Cheltenham festival. So a bit slightly semi-iffy, but then I don't really know whether Cheltenham really suits the horse. Gavin Sheehan's back on board. I think 51's stupid. You can get 6 places, bet 365 off that 50 to 1, which would pay 30 to 1. I think it will be like closer than the price would maybe suggest. I do think Did They Leave You Out Too was very lazy the last day when it was nibbled. The blinkers on that's quite interesting. He's a big price. So I've had 10 each way on Scandiberg, and then I've had a 5 on Did They Leave You Out Too. So nothing really exciting, but interest anyway. So Saturday, let's move on to that because there's a couple more. Is there a couple more? Maybe one more on Saturday. I'm not interested in anything at Newcastle. I was going to look at the French Fairs for Marble Sands, but not. There's only 4 runners, and that's disappointing. Let's just stick with Newbury. Newbury, super weekend, isn't it? So the novices hurdle to begin off with, Lucia, right? As much as we may have mocked her a little bit when we talked about the Cheltenham Exchange and we talked about running the bumper at Cheltenham, she was always going to run in this race, always going to go hurdling. Now, the ground is good. That is going to be a potential concern. Whether she runs or not, I don't know. Permitted Music's got good form on good ground and good form in the book, full stop. So, worthy adversary, something like that. Carol's Passes in there, solid enough line, and Let's Then Lady, another one that's solid enough line. Rosie Redrun was supposed to be better than she actually has turned out to now. Lucia, I talked about this one again with a friend that's putting some bets on for me, and I said 2 to 1 would be the line where I'd be interested, and she has opened 2 to 1. So ground dependent, whether she runs or not, you'd trust that Henderson wouldn't run if it was too quick. I don't think 2 to 1's too bad. I know she's got some depth in the race with Poetic Music. I'm happy to take the punt that she's good enough to go and win that. So I haven't as yet had a bit on. We'll see what happens with the money overnight. I did think that 2 to 1 might be pushing it a tiny bit. So the fact that it's open 2s, we'll see what happens after. Again, ground, all those things. But I'm tempted to have a bit on Lucia. I haven't yet, but I'm tempted to. I think 2 to 1's fair. John Francombe, I can't bet in that race. A very interesting one to watch. I'm glad that Paul Nicholls has run both in there. We've talked about like boaty type horses in there. So I do think Time Hill will win. 5 to 4 is not worth backing, but fair enough. I have backed Mr. Coffee in the Peter Sullivan Memorial Handicap Chase. I would have been strong on him had he have run at Cheltenham in the November meeting on the Sunday when he didn't. Probably wants a bit more of a test, i.e. the ground to be a bit softer, but he's available at 5th of the odds for 4 places. I think he's an absolute shoe-in to be placed because we know how he travels in his races. So I've had a scummy £25 each way on Mr. Coffee. I give him a chance, to be honest with you. What else have we done? In the Coral, there's a handicap hurdle that's got Walking on Air in there. I'm not so sold on Walking on Air at the price. I did look at it, see if there was a bet. I did quite like Lord Baddesley. The weight that he's gone up from that last win's probably enough to put me off, really, but if I was going to be forced, gun to head, have a little interest in there, I don't mind Lord Baddesley in the race. Then in Jerry Fielding, obviously Gero or Jello, the Venetia horse wasn't declared. I looked at that on the declaration tracking. I'm not in. The way that this race would have worked with the penalty is only £1 different for going and having a wait for, fitness again, because he did only run the other day. So no bet in there. Looks a pretty crappy renewal, if I'm honest. Then in the Coral Gold Cup, already talked about this before, I have backed Oscar Elite, 33s, boom, boom. He's going to win, hopefully. I've got a saver on Correct Rambler, 25 quid on that 16s, and I have had a 10 on Ansem at 20s because it'll do my head, and if he goes and wins. Nothing in the last race, the handicap chase, the Jim John Memorial Trophy. You know I keep banging on about Lecoq, Monsieur Lecoq, I love Lecoq. But he's ground's not going to help him, is it? So we'll just keep an eye on him. At some point, he's going to get a bog sometime around Christmas or something, and then we'll make a few quid off of him. So that's my weekend fancies. Obviously, mainly at Newbury. I mean, mainly all at Newbury. It'll be really interesting to see the results from over in Ireland and the results over at Newcastle. Be lucky if you're getting involved. Be lucky if you're following me in. Appreciate your comments below if there's anything that you fancy, anything I may have missed. Please do like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you next week. Be lucky.